Hi, everybody. This is Stephen Groves with Social Marketing Conversations and Guy Powell. How are you doing today, Guy?
Hey, Stephen, I'm doing fantastic. It's great to be here and looking forward to this really cool tool of Oovoo and doing a podcast.
Yeah, so today we're going to try something new. We're going to do a video podcast, and we're going to record it and post it up at Viddler. You guys will be able to make comments on it. So what we thought we'd do here in this very first podcast is Guy and I would just talk a little bit about where we come from, what we're interested in, and what we're doing with the ROI of social media event. So actually, it's a whole project. We're writing a book. We've got a website coming up. We've got all kinds of stuff happening around it. So
we got a ton of stuff going on, Steve, and it'll be pretty cool. And I think when we're getting through all of these different components of this thing, I think there'll be some interesting topics for all of us to talk about.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get enough people interested in it as well and feed back to us so that the conversation is very lively. So, but when we get started here, Guy, I just want you to take a minute to tell me a little bit about your interest in the ROI question. You've been writing about ROI in marketing for quite some time. How do you come to it?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I was the VP of Sales and Marketing for a technology company, and we were tasked, obviously, once a year to put together our marketing budgets. And so I said, well, let's take what our budget was last year, $2 million, and realize that we probably wouldn't get more than that, but said, okay, well, let's say $2 million plus 10%. And then we said, well, let's try $3 million. And so we were putting together two different budgets, and the one was $2 million, the other one was $3 million. And making all of this, the kind of dumb, typical mistakes that marketers make. Yeah. And so then I told the CEO, and he said, Guy, that's really cool, but if I were going to spend another $1 million, I'd spend it on hiring salespeople. And so I said, oh, well, then it looks like we need to prove ROI here, don't we? And that's kind of where the whole thing started. And since then, I started writing my book, and I did a couple of other things and wrote my first book, Return on Marketing Investment. Demand more from your sales and marketing investments. And then my second book, Marketing Calculator, Measuring and Managing Your Return on Marketing Investment.
Awesome. Well, and if I'm not mistaken, you've done a good deal of training on this topic as well, all over the world.
Yeah, that's right. As a matter of fact, I'm going back there in 2 weeks to do some more training in Malaysia. And I have just come back about 2 weeks ago from China and have done as well a number of training series in the U.S. and in Europe. I probably trained now about 1,000 individual marketers and marketing executives on this concept of marketing ROI. And I'll tell you, every time I train something, I learn something. And I hope that, and I think the folks that are there in the workshops get a lot out of it. But I also get a lot out of it because every time there's always some other business or some other business question. And it really does add a lot to the conversation. And not to mention the fact that a lot of that input is now going to be a big part of what we're going to do here with the ROI of social media.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun doing the podcasts with various executives and tool manufacturers. I mean, all kinds of people around this question on ROI. We're having a lot of fun doing those podcasts. We've got a bunch of them saved up that we're going to get published here before too long. But I really like the content we're gathering, and I like the conversations we're having.
No, those podcasts are awesome. I think there were a number of good ones when I think of Annetta Hall at Pitney Bowes and Michael Buck at Dell Computing. There were some phenomenal input that we got off of that, and just hearing their perspective made a lot of sense. And I hope that the folks listening to this will also go to our blog where they're all posted, which is socialmarketingconversations.com.
Yeah, that'd be really great. Now, you and I had met really using social media. How did you get involved in social media? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, probably the first thing that I did was LinkedIn, and actually I've been on there now for quite a while. And, it's funny, I was thinking, I think I met the founder probably 10 years ago at a marketing event where I actually presented on ROMI, on Rami. And I was talking to him, and I, be honest with you, I just didn't get it. And I must say that since then I have seen the error in my ways, and now, now I do get it, and I use it a lot. And I've been on LinkedIn now for a long time. I've got a really good group going, and now we have a second group. The first one is on marketing ROI and effectiveness on LinkedIn, and the second one is on the ROI of social media.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
Yeah. That's one that you and I opened up, and we've sort of used as kind of a leverage up plan, and it keeps growing. I'm really excited about it.
yeah, no, it is. It really, and every day I get more and more people on both of them, and I'm constantly approving them. But enough about me, Stephen. Let's talk about you. Tell us a little bit about you and what your background is.
Well, my background is in sales and marketing, and that's most often as a guy in the field. I worked for Computer Associates for several years, handling the database and tools. And there, at the time, really a lot of the marketing that we had to do in the field was stuff that we had to do in the field. And I've moved through various organizations and opportunities, including handling a global launch for Microsoft, not Microsoft, MicroAge, around systems tools, the Tivoli tool set. So I got to work on putting that whole program together for a services and software sales opportunity, and that was a lot of fun. But
Yeah. No, go ahead. Definitely. Keep going.
I was going to say, back in 2001, I started moving towards doing more consulting work and really starting to work with businesses and being able to help develop their organization around sales and marketing endeavors. And back about '06, I started working with social media. And who knew? At the time, I was working in online communities and doing all kinds of stuff. But they started putting a name on it. They called it social media. So that was really kind of fun, getting involved back in 2006 when Robert Scoble and Chris Shure came into town for a conference that we were doing. So that's how I've sort of gotten to where I'm at today.
Yeah, those are some good names, and certainly they've been able to do a lot in social media. And it's actually interesting as we've been putting this book together to look at the history of social media and how it originally started with bulletin boards and stuff like that. And I think both of us probably didn't even realize what we were doing in terms of social media, and then all of a sudden it became social media. So that was kind of fun. Yeah, so now, what about ROI? I've been doing ROI, but what about you? Tell us about a little bit about your ROI background.
Well, my push to ROI really started when I started looking at social media. When Robert and Chris came to town, I said, this is really fun stuff. I really like the ability to connect with people. I've been a Mr. Community kind of guy for a long time. I've been on the board of my church. I was the president of a Little League here in town, that kind of stuff. Really always engaged and involved in the community. But when I saw this stuff about social media that Chris and Robert were talking about, I was going, this is cool, but why? What's the business reason for this? I just don't get it. Why would I invest all the time that apparently this takes if there isn't a return on it? So I started looking at the ROI early on. And quite honestly, I did a presentation back at PodCamp here in Arizona like 2-3 years ago, and I did it on the ROI of social media. And the conversation at that point was kind of short because there was no real good way of being able to measure ROI. But I stayed with it. I said, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere, right?
There's got to be a pony in there somewhere, but it's only in that little box, and you can't take it outside of that box.
So I stayed with it. I developed a model for real estate called Agent 2.0 and really started diving in a little bit in terms of how these tools are used to connect to people, and not just how they're used to connect, but always keeping an eye on what's the ROI. And last year, I did a whole bunch of work with the author of a really tip-top social media book, and we used it extensively to help launch the book. And the book went from what probably would have been 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 copies to maybe 15,000, 20,000 copies. And a lot of that we think was attributed to social media. But when you and I met, I really said, there's a guy that understands tools and metrics around social media. Let's see where that fits around, tools and metrics around marketing. Let's see how that fits around social media for marketing. And that's really the push has been between you and I to really get this model developed around what social media looks like today. And it's really been an exciting journey. I can't tell you how fun it's been.
Well, it is interesting that you say that, and I think there really is a good melding between the two of us. And we can't forget to mention our other partner on this project, who is Jerry Demos. He is a partner with the Litmus Group in Singapore, so we are bringing his talents, which are primarily in the marketing strategy area, plus his international background, to really make this a global book. And I think we'll find some really good stuff, or that you'll find some very good stuff in this book. as it relates not only to U.S. social media, but also to global social media. I like your background, by the way, in terms of how you got involved with social media. And it's funny because when we first started talking, I had been doing ROI in web marketing as one area. And until it was really defined as social media, I go, well, that is exactly what we did. And we did a big project for a large software company located up in the northwest of the U.S. And on one of their private communities, well, actually it was a public community, but it was a public community branded with their brand name. Okay. And it was an enormous application, had about 10 million visitors every month, and it's still an enormous application, as you can imagine. Yeah. And the ROI question there was a very important one, and it certainly brought out a lot of the concepts that I think that you and I now have developed, and along with Jerry, to put into this book and really turn this book into not just social media metrics, because I've seen a bunch of books like that already. What this is how to measure social media in context of traditional media. If we don't look at it in that way, then we would be missing the boat. And I think there's no question that those tactical metrics that social media marketers have are important. But in the grander scheme of things, social media is just another channel that has to live alongside TV and radio and print and online and what have you. So it's been a good exercise for all of us, I think.
Yeah, no, it really has. And, of course, I got to tell everybody that the debate about just calling social media as just another channel is one that you and I go back and forth on all the time. It's really a great topic. It really is.
And I must say.
And I hope that we can capture some of that here, because it's really a great debate. And it's not one that just you and I have. It's a lot of people have this conversation. So it'll be
No, absolutely. And actually, it was interesting. We had a conversation with the senior vice president of marketing with the Bravo network. And I think that really brought home to me, and I must admit, one of your concepts was that it's not social media, it's media that is social. Right. And clearly the media companies get that, and they are operating on that today. And I think that is really one of the big aha moments for converting over from it's not just social media, it's all media, of which a piece is social media, of right. which all media is now social. So phenomenal opportunity for us to really, I think, have the book out at the right time and on the right kinds of topics.
Yeah, speaking of the book, we both got to get back to it. We both got some responsibilities that we've got divvied up to get that darn thing done. So let's wrap up. Tell me, how do people get hold of Guy Powell on the internet?
Well, I'm around all over the place, it seems like. You can definitely find me on LinkedIn. Yep. And my LinkedIn profile is LinkedIn and with a couple of different things in there, but Guy R. Powell. And certainly find me in my group, which is Marketing ROI and Effectiveness. You can find Steve and I both at the ROI of Social Media on LinkedIn. And then I have a blog on Marketing Calculator and certainly my email at gpowell@demandrami.com. So look forward to communicating with you all and understanding your opinion on the ROI of social media.
So do you have a Twitter account?
And I have a Twitter account. And that is Twitter at Guy Powell. All right, so that's all mine. It's funny, by the way, with all of the different handles that I have, because I also have a Skype account and now an Oovoo account and a whatever, they don't fit on the back of my business card. No. So anyway, tell us how we can reach you, Stephen, because I know you're doing a bunch of stuff, plus also handling a lot of the ROI of social media presences on the web.
Well, the way I've found that most people are pushing, and you and I have talked about this as well, is your Google profile. Look up your Google profile, and gosh, I don't remember the URL for it, but if you Google Stephen Groves, you'll find me all over the place. But I blog primarily at socialmarketingconversations.com. As Guy says, you can find us on LinkedIn at LinkedIn/ Actually, at LinkedIn, you've got to use the URL, the ROI of social media. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ROI of social media. But I would encourage you to go ahead and look first on my Google profile because I keep a big list of things there. in terms of where you can find this. That's probably the best way to get you there. And I promise follow-up from here is that I'll make it easier to find that URL. So.
Yeah, no, I know that sometimes maybe what we ought to do is a little bit.ly URL and just give them the 6 or 8 characters for it. It might actually be easier.
That'd be
but I do want to mention before we go is make sure at a minimum you go to socialmarketingconversations.com and listen to some of the podcasts. I think you'll find them truly enlightening about this topic of ROI of social media.
Yeah, and we're having a lot of fun, like you say. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here and just thank everybody for joining us today for this special premiere episode of the video podcast of the ROI of social media. This has been Stephen Groves and my buddy Guy Powell.
Guy Powell. Thank you, Stephen.
We had to try that, everyone, because it's this really awesome stuff. So we had to try that out. But thanks very much. You can find us in the various social networks, as we've said. So we'll see you at the next video podcast of the ROI of social media. See you, everybody.